Yes, I stopped playing video games. It has been 69 days since I stopped playing any video games at all, except 15 minutes with the Oculus in the US when we bought it. This challenge started in the middle of November last year. Technically, I can't call it a challenge. It is a resolve. You can feel a challenge, but a resolve means to decide firmly on a course of action. And my resolution for 2022 is to not play a single video game for the entire 365 days. This goal will be the most difficult goal I have ever set for myself in my entire life. Anyone and everyone who knows me enough knows that video games form a major integral part of my life. For my kind of species to survive, we need air to breathe, water to drink, sufficient sleep, food to eat, and also video games to play. For me, while growing up, I can play video games for 48 hours straight without sleep and usually about 24 hours without food, sometimes more than 18 hours without water. This means that to survive as a human being, this is where video games really rank when I was growing up in order for me to survive. Air to breathe, video games to play, water to drink, sufficient sleep, and food to eat. Okay, I exaggerate, alright? But whatever I said above are all true. Video games are the reason why I did badly for primary school, failed badly in secondary school, Cambridge O-levels, and repeated a year while doing an arts diploma. It was also the reason for my constant migraines as I stare at the monitor way too much. I was even hospitalized twice. I wouldn't be surprised if video games took a third of my entire life so far. So, why did I decide to stop video gaming altogether? Video games just do not give me the same level of fun it once did. Every new game that's being released these days feels like an iteration of an old genre of game that I once played before. For example, a stealth first-person shooter game like Sekiro Shadows Die Twice felt a lot like Thief and Metal Gear Solid that I had played in my younger days. Sure, there are some new mechanics, and these new mechanics are probably meshing the mechanics of two older games into one. The latest versions of first-person shooters like Doom Eternal, released in 2021, felt so similar to the Doom Eternal release in 2020, which had already raised the bar so high, and that release of Doom was to mirror the fast-paced, successful editions of the earlier Doom games. Remember the first time you played Half-Life? That whole introduction to the game in the monorail? There are many games with better 15 to 30 minute introductions after that, but somehow Half-Life left the deepest impression. Not just for me, I bet for many other people as well. Massive multiplayer games like Final Fantasy XIV, which is the most popular MMORPG right now, just doesn't cut it for me anymore. The reward system from long periods of grinding, boss fights, and troublesome tasks of forming groups with other players just doesn't justify as it once did, especially for MMORPGs. The rewards versus the work needed to be done just simply does not satisfy at all. Many two-dimensional platformers almost feels like they are building upon previous successes like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Mega Man. You guys get what I mean? Let's now talk about dopamine. Dopamine is particularly known as being the happy hormone. It is responsible for us experiencing happiness. The first time I played these genres of games, it was a whole new experience and a crazy ton of dopamine were being released. As time goes by, the same genre of games just doesn't cause your brain to release as much dopamine as it once did. Your brain has just gotten used to it. It feels just like more of the same old. If you are young and you have no idea what this teenager looking man is talking about, teenager? It is completely alright, okay? This video most likely speaks to gamers who have been around for a while and are just tired of downloading the latest highly rated promising game by rating websites like GameSpot or IGN, only to realize that they can't stand playing through more than 45 minutes of that game without feeling bored. Now that's me. If that's the case, right, why do I need to have a resolve to stop playing video games since I'm automatically bored of it these days? Gamers like myself are so used to playing video games to get their dose of dopamine release that it has become a natural habit to spend most of our time playing video games. It is that serious. After a hard day of work, video games. After tucking the kids to sleep, video games. After quarreling with the wife, video games. After passing your exams, video games. Do you realize in these scenarios, it is a way for us to reward ourselves with happiness through dopamine release after tough events and difficult situations, just like watching television, or they call it Netflix these days. Just that the kick you get from video games is a whole lot more. Unfortunately, the kick I get from video games is no longer sufficient, or rather, is giving me diminishing returns the older I get. Even more so, the diminishing returns seem to come because I have more and more experience in playing more and more of the same types/genres of video games. And what remains is just a habit of doing it, which has become quite meaningless. Therefore, I resolved to breaking the habit. Now, another bad thing about video game dopamine. Another reason for stopping video gaming in 2022 is that video gaming gets you that dopamine kick so fast that it makes all my other activities seem so boring. That instant gratification it gives easily kills your love for exercising, reading, hanging out with friends, learning something new, staying loyal in a job. It makes you just don't want to leave home, and so much more. Can you think of some scenarios whereby video gaming has made you feel this way? Athletes get a lot of dopamine high as they release dopamine when they achieve certain fitness breakthroughs. Gamers get that same kind of dopamine high doing a lot lesser than what athletes have to go through. Just compare the high you get from playing video games versus reading a book. Playing games really spoils the market for every other activity except eating, at least for me lah. Pinch of water. Furthermore, for working adults, games are generally cheap. A newly released, highly rated game simply sets you back by $50 to $60. But the amount of dopamine high it gives you can last for months or even years. Now, compare this cost versus an alcohol addiction or a marijuana addiction. Next, constant and prolonged gaming hours. Lastly, gaming for hours on end is one of the major reasons why many gamers hate the real world and love the virtual world so much. It is like doing drugs. Here's why. When you game for hours on end, your levels of dopamine are constantly at such high levels all the time. When that happens, your brain and body get so used to these levels of high and happiness, your body starts to form a new baseline of happiness that it needs to sustain at those levels in order to maintain normal functioning. To the body, that is the new normal. Crazy, huh? It is no different from doing drugs or say porn. So, what happens when you get back to the real world? Your body can't function well, or rather your brain. Your body and brain therefore gets foul-tempered, anxious, anxiety, and you get impatient with everything and almost everyone. You just want to get back to gaming. You just want to get back to your drug. It's like how porn kills your desire for real-life sex. I know it because I used to be such an avid reader, and 30% of why I wanted to stop gaming is because of reading. My old love, I'm coming back to you. I'm also stopping gaming for family, friends, and life experiences. One of the reasons I choose to stop video gaming is for family and friends. I wanted to find out how much more patient a person I could be in terms of spending more time with family and friends if I removed video gaming out of the equation. Not just that, I also wanted to find out how much more time I would spend outdoors exploring and taking appreciation to life around me without the presence of video games. Have you met that one friend who is always late for your appointment because he is video gaming, or maybe he just doesn't turn up at all? You guys know what I'm saying, huh? I was that guy, but that was when I was young. And yes, I'm also doing it for my son Jack. My son gets close to zero video games on the weekdays, not even the usage of mobile phones or the iPad. He doesn't even get YouTube time during weekdays. Cruel, huh? I just wanted to be a good example for him and to show him that it can clearly be done. Don't be surprised. By quitting video gaming, it might even inspire you to have your own kids. Not other people's kids, okay? Your own. Because you have more time, right? No more video gaming to look forward to, right? What do? Make babies. Now, everything is clearly not as smooth when I stop video gaming. So these are some of the difficulties I face when I stop video gaming. Mornings are definitely the worst for me. After waking up, after breakfast, as I do not have a job and most of my work are entrepreneurial, project-based. Meaning that I choose what needs to be done as I am my own boss. The temptation of going straight to gaming in the morning is very real. It means starting out the day with something that you are certain will give you a sense of satisfaction. Although in a wrong way. Like, kill 20 monsters, level up. New spells, new abilities, feel good. Versus starting out your day by researching on a new business venture that requires tons of reading up, learning, doing actual communication with real people who could reject your business ideas, and at the end of months of work, success is is not guaranteed. Rather, success is a small percentage, which is why many people prefer the virtual world rather than the real world. You get my point? For new entrepreneurs, it will be a major distraction. Gaming gives a certain satisfaction, while the other high has a chance of failure. Now, which activity would you choose? Most likely the delusional one, right? Therefore, in the mornings, the struggle is real. There is no boss telling you what needs to be done or disciplining you. That's for me. But can you imagine, if you're someone who quit your stable income job to pursue life as an entrepreneur with a limited amount of savings to last you, say, 2 years, can you then afford to give in to these pleasures? If you're one who can't resist temptations and need instant gratification, do not become an entrepreneur, period. Same thing for people who are holding on to full-time jobs and pursuing their entrepreneurial passions. All the more you should not play video games as time is so tight. I can also understand why the average person would prefer video games to real life. In real life, you can do everything that your job requires of you or more. But if your boss hates you or somehow your sucking up skills sucks, your promotion or pay rise is not guaranteed. Even worse, there is no clear set of rules or instructions on how to level up. But in video games, do this, get that. Do more, get more. It is straightforward and the rewards are always fair. Also, since it is a digital reward system, everyone gets to have their rewards for sure. Such a nice escapism. Another thing difficult for me is saying goodbye to the groups of gaming friends that I had met online. I had spent so much time gaming that I probably spend more time with these people more than my real life friends. And most of these people I have never met face to face before. When afternoons and evenings come, it somehow gets a lot easier and the urge to play fades away. Maybe it's because I'm occupied. However, Sundays are the toughest of them all. I usually spend Sundays as my personal time whereby the family is not around and our helper is also out for her day off. I go to church in the mornings and I try not to work on this day as well. After church, I have the rest of the day off. Oh my god. Then what do I do if I don't video game? So, what happened after I stopped video gaming? I immediately finished reading my first book for the year in just 7 days. I was finding it difficult to focus on non-fiction books for a couple of years now. And because now, my baseline level to be happy requires far less dopamine, books now give me a much healthier addiction and satisfaction. Not forgetting the wisdom that comes along with it rather than gaming. Okay, I do all my reading on a Kindle, okay? Because it's just a lot better and I don't like the clutter that books come with. I don't want too many books in my house. Since coming back from the US, I had already finished 50% of all the goals I had set out to achieve in 2022. This is faster than any year so far. I'm now doing YouTube videos regularly. As usual, with more patience to write scripts, edit and film videos, this activity has actually become my favorite hobby. It feels like journal writing, except you get to film yourself doing it. In fact, I love doing this so much, even though it takes about 11 hours to complete just one video. I discovered that for me, the sweet spot is one video every week. And this frequency is enough for me to love the hobby and not be too stressed out by it. Not forgetting, I love techie gadgets. This gives me a chance to use my camera equipment. I have also resumed my third language classes for Bahasa Indonesia. I go inline skating with Jack more often in the afternoons and I will be taking up swimming on Monday evenings if it all goes as planned. If you video game for 3 hours, it is not just the 3 hours that you are wasting. Sometimes the mental energy required during those 3 hours is so intense, it would leave me exhausted for hours after that. For me, my mental energy and creative juices are at its highest in the morning. When I pour all that creativity and energy into those 3 hours of creative work instead, who knows what I could create that could benefit not just myself, but the entire world. Chey. However, when I go straight into video gaming in the morning, it is not just 3 hours gone into gaming, but what I could have done with those 3 hours. And of course, the mental exhaustion that comes after that. Can you imagine if Albert Einstein was introduced to video games back then? What would the world have missed out today? But technically, that's not possible, yeah? Now, let's talk about the advantages of gaming. Video games are not without its advantages. It is through video games like Neverwinter Nights that my English vocabulary expanded. I learned character planning skills that benefited me in how I planned my career when I was older through games like EverQuest, especially games that didn't have the option to respect your character. MMORPG games taught me leadership skills and teamwork and a lot of patience when it came to grinding for experience like Dark Age of Camelot. MMORPG games also taught me how much I hated being the leader, and also not everyone is necessarily happy working in teams. Honestly, when it came to MMORPGs, unlike most games, it kinda taught me that gratification could take 6 months to a year to obtain after you are at max level and accomplished a few big boss raids. Needless to say, first-person shooter games like Half-Life Free For All brought my reflexes up massively. I also learned how selfish the world is through games like Ultima Online, whereby PvP was rampant. Ultima Online taught me the most important skill: housing planning. I was a super neat homeowner in Ultima Online, and it really translated into real life. There is a lot to learn from video games to stimulate your brain. However, after a certain amount, the benefits just stop. I'm still glad I did some of it, just that maybe I did it too much in this lifetime so far. Now, conclusion. Well, I have nothing against video gaming, and this 365-day resolution/resolve might just end earlier if temptation succumb, but let's hope not. It is just that gaming does not give me the same satisfaction that it once did in exchange for those hours wasted where it could be spent on more productive activities these days, along with all the wrong side effects. If there's a newly released game that could provide me with that same dopamine kick I once had, I wouldn't mind going back to gaming, honestly. I am, after all, an extremist. When I do something, it is to go all out and not in moderation. In this case, it is to quit gaming altogether at a go and not to play for only once a week. This is how I usually get my dopamine kick as well, through achieving my goals. So I am not telling you to do the same. Do what suits you best, or game all you want if you don't agree with this video. In all honesty, I still crave that dopamine high. But for 2022, I've decided to stabilize my emotions and try out what life is like 100% away from the virtual world and see, for once, what a non-gamer's world is like. I have been, after all, gaming since I was 4 years old. I can really say that I don't even recall what life without video games was like because it never happened to me before. Guys, what do you all think about this topic? Are you a gamer like myself, or are you struggling with your children being video game addicts? Leave it in the comments below. I would really like to hear from you. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. If this video speaks out to you and you love self-improvement content like this, do subscribe to this channel, hit the like button and leave a comment. For you, this is absolutely free. But for me, this is a whole ton of encouragement that gives me that dopamine high that I need. Okay guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! Bye! No more gaming. I can't reward myself after completing this video, huh?